Hey guys, my name is Tim. I've been fixing BMWs for the last 10 years. If you're new to the channel, please go check out all the content in there. There's plenty of videos on how to fix your BMW without breaking anything. For returning viewers, hey guys, nice to see you again, sort of. In this video, I will be commenting, or shall I say, answering the comments that I find interesting or topics I want to talk about that I can't fully answer in the comments. So stick around and find out. BMW 328 E90 Sulaf valve cover gasket replacement. The devil himself 8952 comments, hey man, so I followed all the steps but my Valvetronic motor won't budge, pop out at all. I've even tried doing it the other way everyone else says, on writing I guess. It wouldn't be seized to the valve cover for being cold or anything, would it? Well, what I've seen when the Valvetronic motor, you just can't pop it off. Well, first of all, 3 bolts, just 1, 2, and 3 holding it, just so you know. Check it out. And then what I've seen other mechanics do, they put the silicone all over the Valvetronic motor, stick it to the Valvetronic motor gasket, and it just like, yeah, it's like glue. So when you remove all the bolts, you try to remove it, nothing happens. Well, it's first of all, it can't be glued to the valve cover itself because there is a seal there. So yeah, just pry it out, I guess, like nothing else holds it, nothing else at all. The Valvetronic itself, it's just a gear, it can't hold the Valvetronic motor. So yeah, I bet there is a silicone in there. Next one, BMW misdiagnosed, cost thousands in unnecessary repair. I showed the video where the oil filter housing gasket leaking. It's a short video. So Jerome Gabriel 1256 asking, hi, do you then need to change the coolant after replacing the oil gaskets? I'm assuming the oil filter housing gasket, because I'm changing my gasket soon too. Thanks in advance. I would say if your seals are failing and you already have the coolant and oil mixing together, like, yeah, it makes sense to replace the coolant, maybe drain the oil as well, like, but it usually goes one way. The oil gets to the coolant, not the other way around, from my experience, of course. So draining the coolant, that might be tricky a little bit to get rid of all the oil in the system. It's sometimes easier to get new expansion tank in some cases, from what I've seen hands-on. It's like the expansion tank gets so dirty with oil, it's like you can't just even you remove it fully and you wash it, and it's still there. So in some cases I had to replace the expansion tank fully. And then, well, it kind of flushed the system, but it's usually just drain everything and everything's fine. But I also had cars that's been running on this mixture, like somebody else replaced the gasket and it's not leaking, it's not mixing no more, but the oil is there and nothing happens. So don't be too worried about it, but yes, I do recommend replacing the coolant, just drain and refill at least. Oil, not really necessary. Next one, the Fabio Jaren 9977 commented, hey, I just saw your video of the oil gasket replacement. I was like, which one? But I understand it's oil filter housing gaskets for E92, 335 and 54. So that's my assumption. You're talking about the oil filter housing gaskets. I have one question because I have the N55 engine. Do I have to bend something here too? The oil cycle, water cycle? And I responded, of course, every time you mess with the cooling system, you drain the coolant, bleed the system. Every single time. You're replacing a hose, you filled it up, bleed the system. So that's not exception here. And 54 and 55, pretty much the same process and the same components. It's the same water pump, it's the same oil filter housing, so everything goes the same way. So yeah, bleed the cooling system. In regards of oil, you remove the oil filter basically and cleaning it up, there is no oil, I would recommend at least you to pour some oil into the oil filter area, because it takes some time for the oil pump to get the oil up and running up there. And of course, a lot of technicians say like, yeah, you just gotta crank the car without starting it until the oil gets to the oil filter housing. It takes up to 30 seconds, believe it or not. So in my experience, I've cranked it so many times, just started it right up with some oil in it and nothing ever happened. So believe it or not, but the oil cycle, yeah, just pour some oil into the oil filter area, into the oil filter housing, and that's it. That's all you need to do. Next one, N52 oil pan gasket. Easy, me flexing a little bit. Bonda Racing 3579 commenting, does this car have X-Drive, or are you only available to repair it on rear-wheel drive BMW only? I can do it on all-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive, but this video, this short specifically, is on a rear-wheel drive car, and it's a manual transmission, so the oil pan is black, as you can see. They have different oil pans, but it's the same oil pan gasket. In regards to all-wheel drive BMWs, the same engine. This is a N52 engine, or N51, doesn't matter. It's much more complicated process to do this job. I have a specific way of doing it, but I don't want to get into the details of how to. I'm kind of waiting for the car to show up with the oil pan gasket leak on this engine with the all-wheel drive, so I can shoot the proper DIY, because, well, first of all, it's difficult, secondly, it's dangerous, and I don't recommend you doing it on its own if you're not mechanically inclined. If it's your first job, like, forget about it. If you know how to change your oil or do this or that, like, maybe, but still don't recommend. Next one, DIY E70 BMW X5 valve cover for gasket replacement on N55 engine. Stan 1698. Great video. I did the valve cover, oil filter housing, gasket, and cleaned the air intake valves. After reassembly, I had engine codes P112F, manifold absolute pressure to throttle angle too high, bank 1 stored, and P10D5 pending cold start, engine coolant temperature too high. Have you had those, and can I PM you to troubleshoot? Well, those codes really don't tell me much. It can be anything, really. You said you cleaned your intake valves. How sure you are that there's nothing sticking on the bank 1? So it's the cylinders 1 to 3. It's like maybe the valve cannot fully close, like there's something. Check connection to the throttle body, like it can be easy as that. You just didn't plug it in fully, and it relates to the absolute pressure of the intake manifold. Coolant temperature too high, well, something's not plugged in. It's like pretty much nothing else can be, in my experience. So yeah, it's really difficult to diagnose the car without seeing the car and without knowing what has actually been done to the car. So like even if you message me and we talk and FaceTime even, I don't know, like it's really hard for me to have the hands on the car. And the generic codes, the P codes, like, I mean, yeah, it has a description, but you just gotta use something, I would say, BMW related scanner of sorts. Like, I would definitely go this route. But yeah, it's like the best I can do, man. Retrace your steps, check it again. And another one, 3 comments in a row. It's Nirma Singh GF8EF. I don't think that matters. This plastic shield melts over time too. Better to replace with aluminum one. And then way too many assassins replied, aluminum is shit too, mate. I agree. VW's 8851. How so? Alright, so here's the topic that I want to spend a little time on. BMW's plastic. And why is it made like crap and always failing and all of that? Like, well, you know what? The valve covers. Let's just stick to the valve covers. BMW valve covers that are made of plastic. When I was on a L-Ring factory, basically they explained to us why they do the valve cover of plastic. So first of all, yes, it's cheaper. Secondly, when it has a built-in crankcase ventilation system, it's easier to print it out and kind of manufacture it on the scale. So that's definitely easier. But I had a question because from my experience with the aluminum valve covers, what I've seen, that the seals just don't last as long as on the plastic ones. So my question was like, hey guys, you know, what's going on out there? And I kind of had a feeling of the answer, and they said, well, look, when the engine is running, there's vibrations in there, and kind of the valve cover and the seal and everything moves up and down. We can't see it, of course, but it's a micro moves. Everything is moving. That's the first thing. And the plastic valve cover absorbs this movement, so the seals last longer. With the aluminum one, it doesn't absorb that much, and the seals fail. Secondly, noise reduction, guys. If you want your BMW sound like a tractor, like, well, please, yeah, replace everything with aluminum, and like your engine will be louder than your radio, most likely, but not necessarily. Hey, don't quote me on that. But yeah, the one problem I have with those valve covers, aluminum ones, shitty quality, honestly, and the seals just don't last. It's just the way it is, and usually the fitment is such a struggle. Like, man, I'd rather stick to OEM and replace it every 80 to 100,000 miles, maybe less. But hey, it's a much better choice for me. That's why BMW make those things out of plastic, and I don't blame them. It's like here in California, those valve covers, especially on N51 and 52 engine, they last forever. Like, I didn't see warped one valve cover on N51 and 52, and I've seen plenty of those. So yeah, it's just like in cold climate, maybe that's a different story. But here in California, you have to replace the valve cover once in 15 years. Like, well, such a disappointment. I think it's fine. So don't blame the plastic. Aluminum is no better on BMWs. So there you have it. So this is it, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope this video was helpful and I answered some of your questions that you have. But if you have more, please comment below. And of course, don't forget to drop a like. I want to see some engagement in there and to show the YouTube algorithm that you are interested. Share the video, comment of course if you have any questions, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one.